my name is Heather Gallison. I teach first and second grade looping in Saco. I have my students for 2 years. They're all first graders the first year, they're all second graders the second year, and then when they go off to third grade at Burns, I go back down to first grade with a new group of kiddos. So right now I'm currently teaching second grade. This is my 5th year of teaching at Fairfield and in general. I also did my student teaching in a second grade classroom at Fairfield before that. I live in Wells, Maine. I grew up in Saco, though. So, in terms of my childhood reading self, I learned how to read in English. I did not love to read as a child. It was really hard for me to learn how to read as a child. I remember when I was in first grade, I did see a reading teacher. I don't know if it was reading recovery or if it was Title I or what the terms were then, but I did have a really hard time learning how to read, and because of that, I didn't love it. So I definitely can relate to my students now who have a hard time learning how to read and who might not love reading because of that. My memories, so I have 3 older brothers, and they would sometimes read to me, not all the time, but they definitely would not sit and listen to me read, but they would sometimes read to me. And my mom and my dad also loved books, so they would read to me as much as possible. I remember, reading on the couch, snuggled up with, popcorn or whatnot, and them just reading books to me. I'm having a hard time remembering some of the books I read. I do remember that my favorite book series growing up, and I don't know if this was like first or second grade or older, was Junie B. Jones, and I still love Junie B. Jones, and even though some of the language in it is not the best, I do still love Junie B. Jones. And I have a bunch in my classroom, and I usually read at least one to my students, and they always seem to love her as well. She's a very funny character, and I can't say that I relate to her all that much because I was definitely a student who would follow directions and not speak back or would always raise their hand, and I never called the bus the stupid smelly bus. So she was just really fun and really funny, and I really, really enjoyed her. And then there's always a bunch of picture books. Like I loved The Rainbow Fish, and I loved Robert Munsch books. My oldest brother loved Robert Munsch, so he would read a lot of those books to me. Dr. Seuss was always a favorite. Arthur, Franklin, Berenstain Bears were always a favorite in my house as well. So I am going to read probably the first 2 chapters of Junie B. Jones and the Stupid Smelly Bus. Now, I usually do read this to my second graders, and I let them read her books as well. I usually put a few out in my library. And I also read this book when I was student teaching in a second grade classroom at Fairfield. I read this book to the kiddos. We always talk about how sometimes books have certain words that we don't say, like, for example, for stupid, we don't say that. And some of the language, like, she doesn't quite have her, like, past tense down. Like, she'll say, like, rided instead of rose. So some things like that. So I always stop and talk about those when I read it. The back says, "The world's funniest kindergartner is back in Junie B. Jones and the Stupid Smelly Bus. Remember when it was scary to go to school? Because it was your first day and you didn't know anything? Meet Junie B. Jones, kindergartner. She's so scared of the school bus and the meanies on it that when it's time to go home, she doesn't." So, I'm going to read probably the first 2 chapters, but we'll see. All right, Junie B. Jones and the Stupid Smelly Bus. And when there's a picture, I'll show. Chapter 1, Meeting Mrs. My name is Junie B. Jones. The B stands for Beatrice, except I don't like Beatrice. I just like B, and that's all. That's probably one of my favorite parts of this book because I just love how that starts. I'm almost 6 years old. Almost 6 is when you get to go to kindergarten. Kindergarten is where you go to meet new friends and not watch TV. My kindergarten is the afternoon kind. Today was my first day of school. I'd been to my room before, though. Last week, Mother took me there to meet my teacher. It was called Meet the Teacher Day. My teacher was decorating the bulletin board with the letters of the alphabet. I already know all those letters, I said. I can sing them, except I don't feel like it right now. My teacher shook my hand. Only our hands didn't fit together that good. Her name was Mrs. I can't remember the rest of it. Mrs. said I looked cute. I know it, I said. That's because I have on my new shoes. I held my foot way high in the air. See how shiny they are? Before I put them on, I licked them. And guess what else? I said. This is my bestest hat. Grandpa Miller bought it for me. See the devil horns sticking out the sides? Mrs. laughed. Except I don't know why. Devil horns are supposed to be scary. Then we walked around the room and she showed me where the stuff was. Like the easels where we get to paint, and the shelves where the books are, and the tables where we sit and don't watch TV. One of the tables in the front of the room had a red chair. I would like to sit here, I think, I told her. But Mrs. said, We'll have to wait and see, Junie. B, I said. Call me Junie B. I hollered the B part real loud so she wouldn't forget it. People are always forgetting my B. Mother rolled her eyes and looked at the ceiling. I looked up there too, but I didn't see anything. Are you going to ride the bus, Junie B? Mrs. asked me. I made my shoulders go up and down. I don't know. Where is it going to? My mother nodded her head and said, Yes, she'll be riding the bus. That made me feel scary inside, because I never ridden on a bus before. Yeah, only where's it going to? I asked again. Mrs. sat on her desk. Then she and my mother talked more about the bus. I tapped on Mrs. Guess what? I still don't know where it's going to. Mrs. smiled and said the bus driver's name was Mr. Wu. Mr. Wu, said Mother. That's an easy name for Junie B to remember. I covered my ears and stamped my foot. Yeah? Only where's the stupid, smelly bus going to? Mother and Mrs. frowned. Frowning is when your eyebrows look grumpy. Watch yourself, Missy, said Mother. Missy's my name when I'm in trouble. I looked down at my shoes. They didn't look as shiny as they did before. Just then another mother and a boy came in, and Mrs. went off to talk to them instead of me. I don't know why, though. The boy was hiding behind his mother and acting very babyish. I can beat that boy up, I think. After that, my mother sat me down and explained about the bus. She said it's yellow, and it's called a school bus, and it stops at the end of my street. Then I get on it and sit down, and it takes me to school. And then your teacher will meet you in the parking lot. Okay, Junie B, won't that be fun? I nodded my head yes, but inside I said the word no. Chapter 2. Feeling Squeezy. I stayed scared about the bus for a whole week, and last night when my mother tucked me into bed, I still felt sickish about it. Guess what? I don't think I want to ride that school bus to kindergarten tomorrow. Then my mother rumpled my hair. Oh, sure you do. Oh, sure I don't, I said back. Then Mother kissed me and said, It'll be fun. You'll see. Just don't worry. I did, though. I worried very much, and I didn't sleep so good either. And this morning I felt droopy when I got up, and my stomach was squeezy, and I couldn't eat my cereal. And so I watched TV until Mother said it was time to get ready to go. Then I put on my skirt that looks like velvet and my new fuzzy pink sweater, and I ate half a tuna sandwich for lunch. After that, Mother and I walked to the corner to wait for the bus. And guess what? There was another mother and little girl there too. The little girl has curly black hair, which is my favorite kind of head. I didn't say hello to her though, because she was from a different street, that's why. Then finally, this big yellow bus came around the corner, and the brakes screeched very loud, and I had to cover my ears. Then the door opened, and the bus driver said, Hi, I'm Mr. Wu. Hop on. Except I didn't hop on, because my legs didn't want to. I don't think I want to ride this bus to kindergarten, I told Mother again. Then she gave me a little push. Go on, Junie B. Mr. Wu is waiting for you. Be a big girl and get on. I looked up at the windows. The little girl with the curly black hair was already in the bus. She looked very big sitting up there, and kind of happy. Look how big that little girl is acting, Junie B. Why don't you sit right next to her? It'll be fun, I promise. And so I got on the bus. And guess what? It wasn't fun. Alright, so that is the first 2 chapters of one of my favorite books growing up, and still one of my favorite books to read to my students. So I'm excited to get started with this class and get to working with all of you. Thank you. Bye.